Nashville Public Radio serves Middle Tennessee in many ways, every day, including through this podcast. You can support it by leaving a review or rating, by telling a friend about it, or by contributing at WPLN.org/give.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's October 14th, 2025. On this day in 1833, the abolitionist James G. Birney came to Nashville and spoke to a meeting of the American Colonization Society. That was a group that supported the idea of ending slavery and establishing a colony in Africa where those black people could start fresh. In the words of Birney's speech that day, quote, "Slavery must not be regarded as a permanent condition among us." The message made a big impact on one prominent member of this community, local iron manufacturer Montgomery Bell, who made extensive use of slave labor in his business, freed at least 83 people, and paid for their transportation to Africa. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. When you look back at generations of the past, you can't expect them to hold to current standards or look at the world the same way we do. However, there can be a tendency to move too quickly to the idea of, oh, but it was a different time, and just wave away any critical thought about the decisions people made that wouldn't fly anymore. It's worth taking a closer look to determine if our contemporary ideas really were so foreign to them after all. Slavery in the United States is a great example of this, especially here in the South. It's common for some people to look at white individuals who lived here before the Civil War and not really engage with the question of whether or not they benefited from slavery. It was so common and accepted here during that era that it can almost be treated as background noise to the other aspects of those individuals' lives. But when you learn more about the early 19th century, it becomes obvious that all those people had to have been faced with the question of whether slavery was ethical and then actively chosen whether to participate in it. Because honestly, that discussion was kind of everywhere. Think of it this way. In the past decade or so, it's been impossible to just sort of skate on through life and not have to wrestle with the big discussions about abortion, immigration, or vaccines. Those topics are inescapable. And slavery was that kind of topic. Basically, every other nation decided to be done with it before the U.S. did. And that was absolutely the talk of the newspapers, as abolition spread like a wave across the globe. Slavery was at the center of political debates, basically from the founding of this nation up through the Civil War. And James Birney was just one of many abolitionists who went on popular speaking tours. There were abolitionist newspapers and organizations. Slavery wasn't just the status quo continuing along on automatic. It was a continual choice. And so when we try to understand the roots of our community, it's important to recognize that in that context, the anti-slavery movement in the mid-state was best described as mild. As the late TSU historian Bobby Lovett pointed out, what hint of a movement there was here had little practical effect on what actually happened. Now, that colony in Africa was created. It was called Liberia. It's still a nation. And in the lead up to that, colonization did gain more traction here than just straight-up abolition. Tennessee's legislature passed resolutions supporting the Liberian colony. But those lawmakers also adopted a new constitution in 1834 that banned the General Assembly from passing laws for the emancipation of slaves without the consent of their owner or owners. In other words, if Montgomery Bell wanted to give his enslaved community the Freedom Papers and a ticket to Liberia, fine. But let's not try to give any other enslaved folks big ideas. There were some black people in our area who were not enslaved. That free community was, by and large, suspicious of white colonization schemes. And so they didn't really have much common ground with the very limited group of local abolitionists. Between 80 to 90% of the black people from this area who went to Liberia were sent there by their former slavers. Free blacks with the right to decide their own fate generally did not choose to join them. In just a few minutes, pawpaw soda. That's coming up after the newscast.
I like to say Nashvillager in the morning, this is Nashville in the afternoon. I'm Blake Farmer, the new host, and yes, WPLN's Midday Show is also a podcast, and we understand lunchtime listening may not be your thing, but that doesn't mean you have to sit out. You can listen wherever you get your podcast, like right here, or ask your smart speaker to play the latest episode of This is Nashville.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Authorities have released the names of the 16 workers killed in Friday's massive explosion in the Bucksnort community. Their names are Jason Adams, Eric Anderson, Billy Baker, Adam Boatman, Christopher Clark, Mindy Clifton, James Cook, Raina Gillihan, Letitia Mays, Jeremy Moore, Melinda Rainey, Melissa Stanford, Trenton Stewart, Rachel Woodall, Stephen Wright, and Donald Yowell. Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis says counseling resources are a priority for victims' families, local students, and emergency personnel. The disaster has commanded vast investigative resources from all levels of government. A specialized federal team, which includes bomb technicians and chemists, is leading the investigation. Authorities have not ruled out foul play. At a news briefing yesterday, Davis tempered expectations about how soon a cause would be known. The munitions company Accurate Energetic Systems, or AES, has offered condolences to victims' families and says it is providing resources. A GoFundMe has been established. You can find the latest details now on our website, WPLN.org. In the month since Columbia Mayor Chaz Mulder announced his bid for Congress, he's raised nearly $800,000. The Democrat is vying to unseat Republican incumbent Andy Ogles for Tennessee's 5th congressional district. The massive fundraising haul dwarfs the $60,000 Ogles had in the bank over the summer. It also puts Mulder on pace to outraise the last 2 Democrats to run for the 5th district, which includes parts of Nashville. The Democratic Congressional Committee sees unseating Ogles as an opportunity to flip a seat in next year's midterm elections. A former Tennessee police officer will spend the next 2 months in jail before a decision on a proposed $2 million bond. 61-year-old Larry Bushart was arrested and charged after reposting a quote from President Donald Trump in a Facebook comment about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. The quote reads, "We have to get over it," and is attributed to the president one day after a school shooting in Iowa. Bushart reposted it with the caption, quote, "This seems relevant today in relation to Kirk's death." However, the Iowa school shares a name with a local high school, and the reposted image does not mention Iowa. Because of that, Bushart was charged with making threats of violence against Perry High School in Linden, Tennessee. The Tennessean reports that Bushart's bond was set at $2 million, but an early December hearing will decide if that changes. Young people in the South are using online tools to get support for their mental health, but with some distinct differences compared to the rest of the nation. WPLN's Blake Farmer reports on a study from the Hope Lab Foundation.
Young people around the country have relatively similar access to mental health information on the internet, which is why this survey data is interesting. It shows that young people in the South are less likely to search for information, with some respondents pointing to stigma around acknowledging symptoms, even in the anonymity of the internet. At the same time, Southerners in their teens and early 20s also describe social media platforms as being an important source of support and information. In the Southern U.S., young people are more likely to turn to YouTube for information about well-being than in other parts of the country. The researchers with Hope Lab say their findings show a one-size-fits-all approach to youth mental health simply doesn't work. Blake Farmer, WPLN News.
A new federal lawsuit claims Ravenwood High School shows heavy favoritism to the boys' wrestling team while treating the girls' team as an afterthought. It alleges that amounts to a violation of Title IX, the federal law prohibiting sex-based discrimination in schools. The suit is brought by the family of a sophomore who earned spots on the state's national wrestling team during middle school. She specifically enrolled at Ravenwood because it has both girls and boys teams in the sport, hoping that would help prepare her to secure a wrestling scholarship for college. However, the filing says she found the girls' team did not have its own coach or practice area last year. A coach has since been hired, but the school now says volunteers are not allowed to help the girls, and the team is not being allowed to hold preseason practice sessions. Meanwhile, the Nashville Banner reports the boys have long had both a skilled coach on staff and multiple volunteer assistants. They get the majority of the shared practice space and robust support from the school. The suit asks for $300,000 in compensation and that equal resources be given to both teams. Organizers of the Nashville Pride Parade and Festival say they've received more than 1,000 individual donations to help fill a budget gap left by the loss of corporate sponsors. President Tina Touziant says they raised about $140,000, which is well short of the goal.
That keeps us going, you know, and it's not ending. We started August 29th, and it was only a short 6 weeks. And the 250,000 was, you know, a big ask, but we got it started.
Touziant says new commitments from corporate sponsors will support Nashville Pride next June. Nashville Pride does offer some events year-round and also offers financial support to other Pride events in more rural communities. The Tennessee Titans have fired head coach Brian Callahan. That's after the team started this season with just 1 win and 5 losses. Callahan started as head coach in January of last year, and last season wasn't great either. The Titans finished with just 3 wins and 14 losses. The team has won only 1 home game on Callahan's watch against New England last year. The Titans face off against the Patriots again on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. The pawpaw is the largest edible wild fruit in the U.S. The catch is that it has a short window to be eaten, which limits its use in commercial foods. This year, one fizzy drink company in Kentucky made it happen, and the special release quickly sold out, including in Tennessee. From the Appalachian Mid-South newsroom, WEKU's John McGarry reports from the nation's gene bank for the tropical-like fruit.
After 3 weeks with no rain, a trickle irrigation system is watering a pawpaw patch at Kentucky State University's Benson Research and Demonstration Farm. Dr. Kirk Popper, a professor of horticulture at KSU, says the farm is home to about 10,000 pawpaw trees spread across 12 acres. He says the lumpy green fruit grows throughout the Commonwealth.
You'll find them especially along streams in the valleys, and they like a little water. They don't want to be flooded for long periods of time. They will grow along these stream beds, drop their fruit into the water, and the fruit will spread that way.
Some pawpaws have fallen to the ground. Popper pulls a few off branches, and we dig in. The reporter for the first time.
Try this one too.
Okay.
This is Susquehanna sweeter.
Oh, this is different than
Yep.
the first one.
Yep.
What kind is this?
Susquehanna. Another one was sunflower.
Popper says not all pawpaws are created equally. Some don't taste as good as others. At KSU, there are 50 grown varieties plus seedlings. All have short shelf lives, about 2 weeks in a refrigerator, something Popper and company are trying to address.
We've done a lot of different variety trials just to kind of see what grows best in Kentucky. And then we've also been kind of a collection site for material from all around the nation, and we've used that in some breeding efforts.
Last year around this time, another person who'd never tasted pawpaw came to the Benson farm. Daphne Phipps is the Director of Product Excellence and Innovations for the Winchester Soft Drink Company, Ale 81.
To me, it was the most delicious, complex fruit I'd ever tasted. As soon as I thought I figured out what it tasted like, the flavor changed, if that makes sense. So when I first started tasting it, to me, it was mango forward. And then as soon as I had mango in my mind, it started switching to pineapple. And
some call it a Kentucky banana. However, the variety made Phipps' mission more difficult, finding the proper mix of natural flavors for the company's limited time only, or LTO, pawpaw drink. She brought home a large bag full of pawpaws and emptied it in 2 days, so she could remember and replicate it in Ale 81's lab. 8 months and 49 formulas later, she thought she had a winner. According to Popper, perhaps the world's preeminent pawpaw expert, she did.
I think the Pawpaw Ale 81 is an excellent drink. I think it really does capture, especially KSU Chappelle, but captures pawpaw. And so I think it's a great drink on its own, but it's also a great mixer, too.
Back in Winchester, Ale 81 began bottling the Pawpaw LTO for its August 4th release. Chief Marketing Officer Kevin Price says they quickly sold every bottle to stores throughout Kentucky and its 7 border states. Still, he says it's too soon to say whether they'll bring it back.
It's all about the fans, and if the fans are reacting in a more enthusiastic way, we have to pay attention. So we are paying attention.
Phipps says the pawpaw variety sold 48% faster than any other Ale 81 LTO. What's more, it's raised interest in what she calls little green potatoes, to the benefit of the 90-plus commercial growers in Kentucky. People like Matt Minigato, owner of the Hang Loose Pawpaw Patch in Wilmore, that just began producing fruit this year.
There's been a huge uptick in calls, emails, text messages, the whole 9 yards.
So I think we're going to go ahead and get started now. So I'm going to ask.
It's September 10th, and KSU is hosting the International Pawpaw Conference, 4 or 5 of which have been held there. This reporter is about to try his first pawpaw alate.
That's pretty good.
And Kirk Popper is about to receive the fruit of 27 years in pawpaw patches. At the request of KSU President Kofi Akapo, a new pawpaw cultivar developed at KSU is given a name.
KSU Pomper's Choice is a fitting tribute to his vision, his dedication to pawpaw growers, and his extraordinary contributions to horticultural science.
I'm John McGarry at KSU's Benson Research and Demonstration Farm.
This story was produced as part of the Appalachia Mid-South Newsroom, which is a collaboration between NPR and several public radio stations in West Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Thanks for listening to the Nashvillager podcast. We take this look at Nashville and regional news every weekday. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and tell a friend or give us a mention on your socials. It really helps get the word out. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can become a member at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one. And we'll catch back up tomorrow.